Hello, and thank you for listening and watching this On the Verge spin-off show, the Baseball Card Show. We haven't come up with a better name for it, but once a month, I'm thinking we'll talk about the world of baseball cards, as mostly it relates to the Orioles. And this is my host, Fernando. How's it going, man?
It's going all right, Bob. Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to, getting this particular segment started and seeing how, we can, introduce people maybe to some Orioles cards, some Orioles players, and it's a really fun hobby. So, people that are already into it, hopefully we can provide some knowledge, and people that might be interested in it, hopefully we can also, spark some interest and give them some pointers. And, ultimately, like, we're all fans, and it's collecting is a great way to get to know, a lot of the prospects and young players and even, veterans and stars. So I'm looking forward to working with you on this and hopefully covering some cool topics.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you just want to live vicariously through this, you don't actually want to buy the cards, but you just want to see what's out there and, what people are getting into. There's a lot of different ways to collect in this hobby. There's collecting for investing, collecting just because you like the cards and you want to keep them with you. There's collecting veterans, like you said, stars. Your personal collection could be prospects like me, because I am obviously a co-host on The Verge, which is a prospect podcast focused on the Orioles prospects, and that's kept me engaged with the minor leagues. But baseball cards do as well, and they keep me engaged in what's going on in baseball as a whole. I typically will, get into some box breaks where you can pick a team, and as the packs are being opened, any card for that team goes to you. So I get to see all the players that are in the card sets and the prospects, like when Bowman comes out, who are going to be the players that get their first Bowmans, which guys are you most looking forward to? So, yeah. And as we get into that, how did you grow up as a baseball card fan? How did you get into it? Or, I mean, I think with 2020, the COVID thing seemed like sports cards really took off in a big way with people sitting at home, not having anything to do. So, yeah, tell us your story as far as what's going on with you and baseball cards.
Yeah, so I'm a huge Orioles fan. One of my first memories is as a boy, really like 7 years old. My uncle took me to my first Orioles game at Memorial Stadium, which dates me a little bit. But ever since then, I've just been a huge fan. And when I was like 10, 11 years old, I just started listening to Orioles games like every night on WBAL. So I just kind of grew up listening to John Miller and Joe Angel. Just became a really diehard, passionate fan. And, around like 8, 9, 10 years old, I started collecting baseball cards and, had a couple close friends that, did the same. A lot of people in my class, in grade school were collecting. So, yeah, I mean, lots of kids, our age at the time, everybody collected baseball cards. And it was like the start pretty much of the junk wax era, what everybody calls the junk wax era now. But yeah, I just loved collecting, and I loved, following my favorite players. But I kind of grew out of it, like a lot of other kids my age, like, the 94 or 95 strike, that hurt a lot of, interest in the game. And, I was one of those people that started losing interest in cards around that time too. And, as I grew older, got into high school and college, I just kind of grew out of it. I always tried to keep an eye on it, always tried to, maintain some interest. I was always hoping like, hey, maybe baseball cards will come back the way that, they were when I was a kid. And didn't really happen. But, kind of unbeknownst to me at the time, grading took off, I guess, early 2000s or so while I was, in college, post-college. And really the pandemic is what brought me back in. A group of high school friends of mine, like we were all in a WhatsApp chat. And, we all grew closer during the pandemic. I think a lot of people did, like when we were all shut in, everybody kind of just reached out to their friends and family, maybe became a little bit more connected over Zoom. And so we just started meeting up over Zoom every week or two. And then our group chat, really took off and was more active, during the pandemic. And, I kept hearing from different friends like, oh, baseball cards and sports cards are really taking off because of COVID. People are at home and stimulus checks and stuff like that. And, really took off, and really what got me back into it, which is like kind of the Orioles angle for me. In 2019, obviously that's before COVID, but the Orioles, drafted Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, and I really loved the Gunnar Henderson pick in particular. I just thought that he was kind of a steal for the Orioles, and I just really liked his makeup and everything that I read about him. So, I started telling all my friends, back then, but especially during COVID, hey, watch out for this Gunnar Henderson kid. I think he's going to be great for the Orioles. And then I just kind of made a joke to my friends on the WhatsApp chat. I was like, hey, we should pull our money together and buy a, Gunnar Henderson PSA 10. And, one of my friends actually took me up on that. He went out and bought one. And then later on, he asked me like, hey, I bought a Gunnar Henderson PSA 10. What do you think if we kind of pull together some money and buy some cards and see how we do with it? So that's kind of how I got back into it. I was just like, yeah, let's do it. I've been interested in getting back into it. I've always loved, cards. Obviously, I love the Orioles and baseball, and I love fantasy sports. And there's definitely a good correlation between fantasy sports and prospecting in particular, I think. So I just dove into it. We started buying some cards, and it just kind of took off. And, I'm just really, I'm pretty serious about it now, but ultimately I have a lot of fun with it. And, I've met a lot of cool people in the hobby. I've connected with a lot of Orioles fans around me that I never would have met otherwise. So yeah, that's a little bit about my story, and, who knows how it's going to go over the next couple of years, but, I've been having a lot of fun with it so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that Gunnar Henderson story. And it's working out so far. We'll dive a little bit deeper into him later in the show, but
Yeah.
man, he's really taken off this year in a big way. We talked about it just on a regular baseball aspect and then his
Yeah.
cards as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I grew up. I actually grew up with my grandma, lived at her house growing up, and there's a card store right at the corner up the street. And once a week, you'd always walk up there, even if we barely had any money, maybe buy a single pack or a single card. And it was just fun to go up, rip open a pack of baseball cards, and try to get your favorite players. So that's how I got started, but then fell out of it for a long time. And then actually, it was even after the pandemic already hit. It was about 10 or 11 months ago. Now, someone that I work with, I'm a mailman, I work at the post office. She knows I'm into baseball. So she said, hey, I just came across this big thing of baseball cards. You think you could go through it, see if there's anything of value so we can sell it, and yada, yada, yada. I'm flipped through it, and it's just bringing back all the nostalgia, all the feelings. And then there was a bunch of, I think it was 2021 top series 1 or series 2. And I was like, man, these cards look pretty cool. I'd like to get back into this. And then it's just, with me, if I'm interested in something, I'm all in. So I'm looking up, what is going on with baseball cards these days. I heard they're hot, and I came across the breaks that I was talking about earlier, and I just felt like that was a fun way, and actually kind of can save you money, especially if you're just like, oh, I just want the Orioles cards. Well, they're actually pretty cheap in breaks as of right now. Maybe that will get a little more expensive as guys like Adley come up and have rookie cards and stuff, and you can buy packs. You can go to your local card store. There's actually a couple near me in Bel Air that they have single cards available, packs available. It's getting more expensive, but there's still ways that you can, and especially there's certain types of cards like the traditional top series are on the cheaper end. There's Gypsy Queen that's on a cheaper end. Stadium Club comes out next month. They're typically a little cheaper. When you get into Bowman, which is where all the prospects and the prospects, that's where all the big prospect cards are. I guess we should explain to people that, in case you're not super in on the hobby, that, Bowman, you'll have your first card. I don't know when that started, but it was definitely after I was like into baseball cards.
Yep. Yeah.
Whenever someone is signed internationally or drafted, they will get their first professional card in their team's uniform, photoshopped on there, and that's their first, and that will most likely be their most valuable card, at least until they get rookie cards up with the Topps main line. And those are the cards seems like most people go after. And there are variations as far as color. They're numbered cards. There's signature autograph cards, and they found a way to really give a lot of chase cards for people to go after. Some people go for rainbows where they want every color of a certain card, which is kind of cool, but seems like a lot of effort. How do
Yeah.
you, what do you do when you're, are you a guy that just goes on eBay and, hey, this is the card I want, I think there's value here? Do you do breaks? Do you buy cases? What do you do?
I think for myself and what I try to tell friends and people that I meet that are trying to get into the hobby, I really recommend just buying singles. I think breaks are definitely good, or they're a great way to learn, a team or a particular set in a year. Because if you do enough breaks, like you'll pick up on, the Rangers have these couple rookies that are really important, or first Bowmans, or whatever team. Like you start to get to know every team, and especially if if you're an Orioles fan and you take the Orioles in a break, you really start to learn, who the firsts are, who the rookie cards are, everybody in the set and all the parallels. But me in particular, even though I'll do breaks occasionally, and especially when I was first starting out, I did a decent amount of breaks with some friends, and I learned a lot about, like I said, the sets in particular and the different players. But I think the best bang for your buck can usually be, going onto eBay and just going after a card that you want at a good value, whether that's, the going rate at the time, the eBay sold, prices, or, if you've got a budget and you're just like, hey, I want to learn the hobby, and, I've got this amount of money, and it's okay if I lose it all, or, if I don't make any money on this, and you stay within the budget, it's really, if you pick up cards that you really like, or that there's a player that you really like and you want to collect them, that's really the most important thing, is that you're buying cards that you enjoy. If you get serious about it to the point where you're investing and you're trying to make money, I think that's also all right. And you can get to that point, I think, after learning it and picking up cards that you love. But I think singles are also good from the investment standpoint, because breaks, especially if you're investing in cards, you're typically going to want to go after Bowman firsts, and Bowman in general, because like you said, the first card is really, right now, it's kind of the most desired, the most valuable. There's all these autographs and parallels of, the first cards of all these players. And really, like when we were growing up, and, in the 80s and 90s and before then, rookie cards were always the most valuable card of any player. And, they still are when you're talking about, a Mickey Mantle rookie, or Michael Jordan rookie. But after 2000, pretty much, Bowman kind of changed the game, in my opinion, when they introduced first cards. And they're really just another form of a rookie card. When you think about it, it's really just the very first card, or a kind of a rookie card of a player that's, their first professional card in the uniform of the team that drafted them, or signed them. And so I think that's why they're now the most valuable. It's just a new form of a rookie card. It's the very first card that you can get of a player. And from an investment standpoint, or people that are in the hobby, for monetary reasons, it's a lot of it's speculation. So, for the same reasons that people wanted to get the rookie cards of, for Orioles fans like Cal Ripken and Eddie Murray, growing up, nowadays it's going to be Adley Rutschman's first Bowman card. And then prospects like Gunnar Henderson and Kobe Mayo. It's going to be the first cards that I think people are chasing, and that people are going to spend the most money on, or at least they'll have the highest prices. So, yeah, I mean, from that perspective, I still think that, buying on eBay, just finding something you like and saying, hey, I want to stay, under this amount of money for this card. And then the other thing that I'd recommend for people is going to card shows, because you can find some great deals. Because if you think about it, like especially bigger card shows, you'll have dealers from different parts of the country. And so you might have a dealer that comes down, for example, this weekend, there's a big card show in Chantilly, Northern Virginia, and I'll be going to that. And you'll have dealers from all across, the East Coast, up and down, that'll come for that card show. And you might have a dealer from Florida or New York, or, Massachusetts, or wherever. And, they might be used to, if they're from Massachusetts, they might be Boston Red Sox fans, or they're used to catering to Red Sox fans. They're not going to value Orioles cards all that much compared to a dealer that's from Baltimore or DC. So they might be more willing to let some Orioles cards go. Although, those dealers will know, hey, this is the market that I'm in. So they're not, dummies. Like, they're in it for a reason. They're usually pretty sharp people, and they're business people. But, they might not be super attached to certain Orioles cards. Or there's also dollar boxes, there's like lower end cards that, people will set up and they'll have rows and rows of cards for 50 cents or $1. And that's where you can really make some great pickups and pick up some players that you really like that maybe aren't as popular, in general, or they're just not as, sought after by somebody that's from a different market. So I think those are some of the best ways to get started. I definitely recommend that people go to card shows if they ever have the chance. And then, eBay and other platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you just connect directly to other people, just like you and I, and they'll trade with you, or, they might do claim sales or auction sales, outside of eBay. And you can find some good deals there too. And that's where I've gotten most of the cards, over the past year plus after I got back into it. I'd say a majority is actually I've gotten off of Facebook, a little bit off of Twitter, a couple off of Instagram, and then a lot off of eBay and card shows.
Yeah, imagine saying that to yourself 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I would love to go to a card show. I still haven't been. I want to take my son who's into Pokemon cards and just have a good time. But I work on Saturdays. Like you said, this one coming up is a 3-day event. Would love to go to it, but I've already got tickets to the Ironbirds game.
I got you.
A late Father's Day thing with my dad and my kids. So
nice.
I'll make it down to one for sure.
Yeah.
But as far as, let's just say, investor, like, when are you buying? When are you selling? Like, I'm assuming obviously you want to get on these guys early, do your homework, listen to On the Verge for the Orioles prospects, and try to grab them when they're on the cheaper end or average end, and then right when they make the top 100 list, or they get promoted, or they make their major league debut. Is that the time to sell if you're going to sell, or is there guys you want to hold on to even longer?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to, like, you might just develop favorite players, and you might have a player that's never a star, but for whatever reason, maybe he went to the same college you went to, or he's from the same hometown you are, or you're family friends with him. I have a friend that was in the Army with Daryl Ernaize's dad. So he's been following Daryl's career, ever since he got started with the Orioles farm system last year. So he's, buying up everything, that he can find, because Daryl's first Bowman was this year, which came out just a couple months ago, 2022 Bowman. And so he's been just trying to get as many of his first. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And that's, nice autograph there.
Yeah.
So like my friends just tried to buy everything that he could. And, for him, I don't think that he's going to really be looking to sell a lot. Like, if he does, maybe it's because he's going to try to buy a bigger, Daryl Ernaize card or another Orioles card that he really likes. But in general, if you're looking at it strictly from the quote unquote investment standpoint, or you're just trying to make some money so you can get into bigger cards, which is, I think, a big reason a lot of us collect. We always want to get nicer cards or bigger cards or more expensive cards, or whatever it is. But we just want to expand our collection and have nicer cards. And a good way to do that is to buy. It's really buy low, sell high, just like, any other market or any other kind of investment or whatever you want to call it. So I think that, your guys' podcast, this podcast is great for identifying those prospects. It's a lot of knowledge, and anybody that's watching and listening, if you're hearing about, young prospects that are doing really well, in the short season leagues or even in the summer leagues, and then once they hit, low A and high A and they're doing really well, if they, aren't super hyped, or, a lot of people don't know about them, chances are that their first Bowman card might not be too expensive. Now, on the other hand, an Adley Rutschman or a Colton Cowser, from last year's draft class, they're going to be a lot more expensive right out of the gate, because, everybody knows who they are. They were drafted in the first round for a reason. So their prices are going to be higher right from the beginning. And it might be tougher to invest in a player like that unless, you just have a lot of disposable income to just go after whoever you want. But, if you're a collector that's looking for value, I think, identifying players like, really, Gunnar Henderson was one of those kinds of players, because, his first Bowman stuff, it wasn't cheap, but it was much more affordable compared to a guy like Adley Rutschman, who was the exact same draft class. Kyle Stowers is another guy, 2019 Bowman. He had his first just like Adley and just like Gunnar did. Another guy that was fairly cheap, and he's also taken off over the past year, 2 years. And that's another guy that, you can get an autograph of his, or you could have even last year for, $10, $15, $20. Whereas Adley Rutschman, an autograph of his, for a base autograph might be 100, 150, $200. So you're talking about way different kind of tiers of, like entry level into, buying into a player. So yeah, if you identify your prospects, if you, listen to podcasts like this one, and you do your research and follow all these guys, day in and day out, you'll be able to identify some talented prospects, some prospects with upside. And, a lot of times, like, you just follow them day to day, week to week, and you see these guys like, hey, they're doing well, or they just got promoted. And, if you look up their first Bowman, if they have one yet, you can just see like, all right, well, this is the price. I believe in this player. Let's buy a few cards of his and see how they do. And then in terms of like, when do you get out? Again, that goes back to like, hey, if you're just a pure collector, maybe you don't want to sell them. But if you do want to sell them for whatever reason, just to make some money for other things or to buy back into some other cards, in my opinion, I mean, really, there's some cards where, like take Gunnar Henderson, for example, if you bought an autograph of his for $50, his first base auto, first Bowman autograph, last year you probably could have bought it for, I'm going to say like between $60, $75. And then when he took off this year, I think his base autos now are going between 100 to 150. It's kind of a broad range. It might be somewhere in between there, but you might just say like, hey, I doubled up my money and maybe more. I'm just going to take my profits and buy some other cards that I like, or maybe buy a nicer Gunnar Henderson card. I don't think there's ever anything wrong with taking a really nice profit, whether it's 25% or 100% or whatever it is, as long as you're happy with it and you're fine with, hey, I'm just going to sell this now and I'm not going to look back, whether it gains another 50 or 100%, as long as you're fine with that. But in general, what I recommend is if you really believe in a prospect, the best time usually to sell them is when they're promoted to the big leagues. And, just as an example, Riley Green from the Tigers, he was just promoted a couple days ago. I started selling a few of his first Bowmans on eBay, and none of them are big cards because when I got back into the hobby, his autographs, his first Bowmans are, a couple $100 a piece for the lower end ones. But, I bought his, Chrome firsts, which is, aside from Bowman paper first, it's basically the lowest tier card that you can buy or the cheapest card that you can buy. So I've just been, selling them, and I might be making 50% or 100% profit on it. And I'm fine with that because I'll put that into, an Orioles prospect that I like, or just another player that I think I can make, a good profit on. O'Neal Cruz was just promoted yesterday. I think he played his first game tonight. Same thing. A lot of people, whether they're Pittsburgh fans or card collectors, are going to be like, hey, this guy made it to the big leagues. And there's actually a lot of people that, that you kind of have to, or they're kind of like, show me, like if they make the big leagues, all right, they got a shot and they might buy in then. Whereas people like us are like, well, we think this is a great prospect and they're going to be in the major leagues. So we're going to buy in a year or two before they even debut in the majors. So yeah, like in general, I would say like 90% or 75% plus of all prospects, when they debut in the major leagues, their card prices actually go down because it's so hard, number one, to play well in the big leagues. It's, I think, the hardest professional sports league to even make it into the big leagues and then to be a star or to even be a good player. But a lot of times, like all these prospects, they're doing well in the minor leagues, and that's why they make it to the majors. But a vast majority can't maintain that same production that they had in the minors. So their card values will go down unless they just immediately hit the ground running, hit for a high average, hit a bunch of home runs. And in my opinion, our hobby for hitters is really home run driven. If a prospect or a major league rookie isn't hitting a lot of home runs, a lot of times people will lose interest and their prices will go down. It's just kind of the nature of it. And it goes back to the speculative nature of the hobby. It's kind of unfortunate in a lot of ways, but that's just the way it is. So, that's why I think that selling right when they're promoted or maybe a little bit before, that's when you're probably going to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. And then after that, it just really comes down to, do you like the player? Or do you like the team? And then it just becomes a matter of like, hey, what's in your budget? What can you afford?
That's great stuff. Yeah. And I'm not personally someone that is really looking to buy and sell too much. I'm just collecting to collect, and maybe one day, if there's a card that, man, it'd be stupid not to sell this for some profit, and then, like you said, I can turn that into more cards for different players. That would be cool. But the only card I've really sold was I bought a blaster box of Bowman Chrome, I think, last year, like right when I was getting back into it. And I know there's no guaranteed autographs in a blaster box, not even close, but I did get one. I got a true blue Adele Amador Rocky's first Bowman autograph. And I'm like, what am I doing with this card? I've heard of this guy maybe in passing. I don't know much about him. Let me see what it's going for. And I ended up selling it for $140, which I thought was pretty nice profit. Paid for the
Yeah.
box that I bought, and then some. So I reinvested that in who knows what. But that's really the only time. If I'm in like a let's just say, for example, I was in a Series 2 Tops break this past couple weeks ago, and for fun, I got the Orioles, but they were super cheap. So I'm like, let me get another team too. I got the Tigers. I was hoping for the Spencer Torkelson SP rookie card, but instead I got this Miguel Cabrera Silver Slugger. It's 1 of 10.
Oh,
So
wow.
pretty
That's a
cool
nice card.
card.
Yeah.
So maybe when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame in 5 or 6 years, maybe I'll look to sell that. I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, that's about the only investment I do. And the last question I'll get into before we get into, what our regularly scheduled programming will probably be is, what do you think of Tops Now cards? These are cards that Tops will sell for like 24 hours on their own website based on results from games the day before. I will buy pretty much any Orioles Tops Now card just to have it. Actually, I'll just go on eBay and get it for $5 as opposed to 10. It'll just
Yeah.
come in later, and there's no numbered cards probably coming to you from that way. But do you have any interest in those?
I do have some. I might try to buy like the Adley card. I think it took them a few days before they actually printed them or had made them available. But really, especially because Topps they have a cutoff, I guess, of May 15th or so, where if a rookie hasn't been called up or hasn't made his debut by then, they're not going to be in Series 2 or update. And so then they'll be in 2023. So really the only cards that you can get of that player are going to be in Topps Now. I do know that last year for baseball and in other sports, a Topps Now, debut or first major league hit, first home run, whatever, they'll sometimes have the rookie card logo. If I remember correctly, or if I read correctly, I'm not sure if Adley's cards will have. I don't. Yeah, they're not going to have the rookie card logo. They'll be call-up cards. So they're definitely not going to be as desired by non-Orioles fans or non-Orioles collectors. But I think that they're a great way to get a card manufactured by Topps, who's obviously the manufacturing leader and the best known name going back 70, 80 years or longer. So yeah, I think that it just comes down to collecting. For investment purposes, I don't think I wouldn't recommend spending thousands of dollars on buying 100 or 500 Adley call-up cards or really any player. But I think that they're really cool for the hobby because Topps in general and a lot of manufacturers, especially now post-COVID with all the supply chain delays, case in point, I think football Prism or a lot of the different Panini football lines of cards were delayed by like 6 months to a year. So you've got cards from the last season's rookie class that just came out, which is kind of crazy. So like, a whole season was played where all these rookies, played and everybody figured out, all right, Joe Burrow, or not like, the rookies from the class, like Zach Wilson
Jones?
or Trevor Lawrence and Mac Jones. Everybody figured out, okay, Trevor Lawrence is struggling. Maybe he's not as big of a hotshot as we thought. Or, hey, Mac Jones is, the real deal. Normally you can buy cards of them at some point during the season. but not this year. You know, people had to wait until well after the season, almost coming up on the following season, before they even have a chance to buy those rookie cards. So, you know, with more delays now, and, you know, like we were talking about, at least for baseball, a lot of these rookies that made their debut after May 15th, they're not going to wind, a lot of them aren't going to wind up, you know, in any sets until 2023. So I think Topps now is a good option to get cards of players that you like.
Cool. So let's get into this past month's, or June. We're still in June. We'll get into June's releases so far to date. And I guess we should start with the big one, Topps Series 2. What do you think of the design of the cards this year? I guess we should start with that. Do you like the 1987 insert? I feel like the base cards are a little bit cleaner than the year before. So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a clean, you know, kind of straightforward look, which is never a bad thing. Yeah, I mean, I think that they've got some eye appeal. You mentioned the 1987 inserts. I mean, that was kind of a favorite set of mine. If I remember correctly, Mark McGwire had maybe not his rookie card, because I think he had a 1986 like Olympic team that was considered his rookie, but that was one of his first regular Topps cards. But yeah, I remember that kind of wooden, you know, border really well. That's kind of a classic design. So yeah, it's really cool to see those. And based on what I've read, I think that there are super short prints or short prints of Julio Rodriguez and Spencer Torkelson. So that is good that Topps was able to get those guys in there. I think that's really important. And those are definitely going to be, you know, chase cards for people. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the design's nice. And, you know, there's a little bit, you know, border wise, I guess, kind of some similarities, sorry, to last year. But yeah, in general, I think they look nice. And, you know, it's good to see that some people are, you know, really going after the short print rookie cards.
Did you pick up any Series 2?
Not yet. I typically like to wait until things die down a little bit, and
Smart.
you know, if I see them at Walmart or Target, you know, I'll pick up you know, blaster or hanger or whatever's available. I haven't seen anything that's just, you know, around me. I haven't seen any Bowman. You know, I saw Bowman once after 2022 was released, and I think I got a total of 2 packs after 2021 was released. You know, and that's over the course of pretty much a whole year. I just never saw very much Bowman around me.
Well, I did a case break of the Topps Series 2. I'll shout out
Nice.
Rat Pack Breakers on Facebook. The guy does a great job. Little small community that is reasonably priced. And I like I said, I was on the Orioles. I got a Cal Ripken insert here.
That's awesome.
I hit a Cal Ripken All-Star Game patch. That's probably my favorite card of the bunch. This is a Series 1 Eddie Murray Mojo pack card. And then I also got Cedric Mullins from Series 2 and a
Nice.
Brooks Robinson. And I got, here's a couple of the more generic inserts, Cedric Mullins, Generation Now. And I got John Means and Jim Palmer no hit clubs. Pretty cool.
Nice.
So, yeah, I thought Series 2 was disappointing from a broader perspective. Outside of those SPs, there were no real, like, chase rookies to go after. Right. And especially the Orioles, you had Pat Valaika in Series 2, who was terrible last year, been off the team for a long time.
Yeah.
There he is in June 2022.
Yeah. That's where the quality controller, I guess, those lags and, you know, the supply chain can really hurt.
And DJ Stewart had a big showing. The rookie cards were Marcos Duplan, who's a decent reliever who's been mostly in AAA this year. He's been pitching great there, but not sure there's much there. And Michael Ballman, his rookie card was in Series 2, which is not a terrible card by any stretch of the imagination. We also had Bowman Mega Boxes come out, which I actually bought one of yesterday for Father's Day as a gift to myself. And I showed you this before the show started. I got the Wander Rookie of the Year favorite in the Mojo pack, which I was excited about. And
yeah, it's a nice one.
Let's see what else. This was actually not from the Mega Box, but I got I think it was a blaster box at Target, which my Target near me always has baseball cards available, which is unfortunate for my bank account. But I got a Marco Luciano green,
nice.
99, which was pretty cool. And yeah, Mega Box, I think it was just they constantly Bowman is releasing different versions of their stuff with slightly different parallels to try to get you to buy, and it works, at least for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I mean, it works for me too, to be honest. I mean, a lot of people will complain like there's too many parallels, too many colors, and they're adding a lot of new ones, and it can definitely get overboard. But it is pretty cool. For people that aren't familiar with Bowman, they usually are pretty consistent year to year. When you get a super low numbered parallel, so for example, there's gold refractors that are numbered to 50. And if you think about it, there's non-autos numbered to 50 and autographs numbered to 50. I mean, that's 50 of them, everywhere in the world. Like those are truly rare. So it is cool. Like if you, rip a pack and get one, or if you buy one, for a nice price to have in your collection, those are really awesome. And blues are really popular in the hobby. Those are numbered to 150. And where it kind of can get a little silly is there's blue waves, which just have a little different design. There's blue shimmers, which have a different design, and they're all numbered to 150. So they can get a little carried away with the different parallels, and collectors tend to value what they call the true colors. So the true blue, which doesn't have any of those different designs, just the straightforward blue. Those tend to be really, valued in the hobby. And honestly, there's greens, which are numbered to 99. And you would think that the ones to 99 would be more valuable because they're a lot more rare, but they're actually not. A lot of times the blues will sell for more. And I believe the reason for that is that greens were introduced after blues. I don't know how many years after, but when the greens were introduced, they were retail only. So a lot of people just kind of looked down on them, or they just didn't consider them an original color. So they've, kind of lagged behind value-wise or price-wise compared to blues. I personally like the greens, and, to me, something numbered to 99, I mean, that's getting pretty rare. There's not that many out there. And, I don't mind, opening a pack and getting a green autograph, or, getting one off of eBay or trading for one. I personally like them because they look nice, and but they're pretty rare. So it is pretty cool to collect different colors, and and then also for people that aren't familiar, I mentioned the number to 50 golds. There's also oranges, which are numbered to 25.
Obviously, Orioles fans will like those.
Yep, yeah, and they look really cool for Orioles fans. I will show pretty cool Kobe Mayo. So this is a card that my friends and I bought.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if there's a little bit of a glare there, but yeah, that's Kobe Mayo first, 2021 Bowman Chrome, numbered to 25 refractor. So that's
great.
A pretty big card. We got it, before Kobe took off like last year. So yeah, we're happy that we got it, and we're going to hold on to it, see how he develops over the next couple of years, and who knows, what's going to happen with him. But I'm pretty high on him. I know that you guys, on the podcast are pretty high on him. He's got great power. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's that other element. You'll have people that like the color matches. So,
yeah,
if you're a Reds fan, those are hard to collect color matches because they're numbered to 5. Right. So there's the oranges numbered to 25, and then red refractors are numbered to 5. And then there's the super fractors, which are 1 of 1s. And obviously those are, as rare as it gets, and they'll go for sometimes extremely, high prices. And even players that aren't very good, if it's a first, but it's a super fractor, you still might be able to get a few $100, for even a no name.
Yep.
If you happen to get an autograph or a non-auto super refractor. But yeah, it's pretty cool, to collect, the different parallels. And yeah. And then, the mega boxes that you mentioned, I actually like those too. So like, that's kind of their own little line within 2022 Bowman. But the Mojo design, I definitely have a Mojo here around here. When I see one, I'll show one. Yeah. But I actually like them, and I think they've become a lot more popular over the past few years. They look pretty cool, and they have a pretty basic design, but they're pretty eye-catching, and they're a refractor, so they're a little shiny, but they look pretty cool. And so I kind of gravitate towards the mega boxes / Mojos, are kind of interchangeable term there for those particular refractors. But yeah, I'm really big into Bowman, as you can probably tell, and obviously Topps is the flagship. So those cards are always going to be in demand, and lots of collectors for those. But there's nothing quite like Bowman because of the prospecting aspect, and you'll have all these minor leaguers years before they ever debut in the majors and have a true rookie card.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to piggyback off of your Kobe Mayo orange, this is not as impressive. It's a Bowman Sterling. It's only to 75, but it's
That's a
auto.
great
And
card. Yeah, that's an
yeah,
awesome card.
yeah, I hit that in a break actually. So that was probably one of my best hits when
That's
I've
awesome.
entered a break. Yeah, but let's get into the last release from June that's really worth talking about. Panini Absolute, excuse me, Panini. I guess we should broach the subject of Panini. They don't have the MLB licensing, so it's all generic Baltimore, Seattle, what
Right.
have you. But I actually feel like their cards are typically pretty well designed and pretty cool looking. How do you feel about Panini in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing with Panini, because they are unlicensed, there's going to be a lot of people that just don't go after them, don't pay attention to them, and don't buy them. But they do have some really cool designs, and for people that aren't familiar with cards in general, Panini produces licensed football and basketball, and they're considered the leaders for both. Going back 10, 15 years or so. Because Topps and Upper Deck and a lot of those other companies like Fleer, Donruss, they used to have the licenses for several different leagues, but they all slowly lost those licensing agreements. And then Panini took over the NFL and the NBA. So Panini's been considered the leader for those two sports for a long time. And so you'll have the Prism, silvers, and there's different.
Donruss.
Yeah, the optics and hollows, and they've got a million different parallels for each one too. But so collectors, and to be honest, basketball kind of led the charge, I think, in the COVID boom for sports cards and collectibles. And so a lot of people, started buying a lot of Panini, Prism in particular. So they were chasing, Luka Doncic and Zion Williamson, Trae Young, like all those young players, and that also got a lot of people back into the hobby and back into baseball. So from that perspective, Panini is, legitimate manufacturer. They've got some really cool designs and decent quality card stock. They definitely, can go toe to toe with Topps in terms of quality control and that kind of stuff. And not that they're perfect or anything. But from that perspective, the cards really do look good. And so again, if you like to collect a certain player or a certain team, your team's logo is not going to be on there, but that that's your team and that's your player. It is pretty cool to go after them. And, when it comes to Panini and Leaf also, they'll have some really cool, like, autographed cards too. And, I think, I've got like an Anthony Santander card, autograph, and, I like it, just as an Orioles fan, I'm not going to, throw it away or anything like that. I'm collecting it. So, from that perspective, I think, there's something for everyone there too. And it's worth looking at. And you might be able to get an autograph of a player you like for, $5, and that same card in the Topps or Bowman might run you 5 or 10 times as much. So, there's definitely a place for it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And like if you're looking to get into cards for a little bit of cheaper margin, I feel like, but you can find Panini fairly cheap, like you said. And what was I going to say? Santander. That's what I was going to bring up.
Nice.
I hit Santander green out of 5 last year. I mean, it's not autographed, but still out of 5 is pretty cool. So I like that card as well. And I did get in with the Orioles and actually the Mariners, who I got really lucky with in a box break for the Absolute. And the one hit I got for the Orioles is a Rafael Palmeiro relic to 10.
Nice.
Piece of his jersey there.
Very
But
cool.
with Seattle, I did really well. I got a numbered Kyle Lewis to 199.
Nice.
That's fine. I got a number 299 Matt Brash rookie card.
Cool.
I got a number to 199 Logan Gilbert autograph, which I got a case of update Topps 2021 update, and Logan Gilbert was the autograph I got in that box last year. So building the
Nice.
Logan Gilbert collection,
Yeah,
apparently.
he's having a nice year this year.
Yeah, he is. I also got someone who's not having quite as good of a year, Cal Raleigh to 199 relic and autograph card, and a guy who has bounced back after being traded from Texas to Seattle, JP Crawford. I got a 199 relic card of his as well. So that was all from the same
Nice.
break. Definitely good stuff there.
Definitely.
All right, so let's preview the upcoming releases for July. I guess that there's one for the end of June and one big one in July for Topps. But to go through some that are like more expensive specialty, you buy a box and you get one pack of 6 cards or what have you. You have Topps Definitive Collection, Topps Pristine, Panini Immaculate, Topps Clearly Authentic, and Topps Tier 1. Do you get into any of those like premier type of cards at all?
Not for baseball. I've always been interested in, some of those like national treasures and flawless for the other sports. I've always, wanted to maybe get into a break just to see how it is. But to be honest, it's just like a lot of money to kind of take a chance that you might get a card, Yeah. But yeah, I honestly like so much of my attention is on Bowman and Topps Chrome. I like Stadium Club and Stadium Club Chrome a lot mostly because of the photography. For Stadium Club in particular, I think is phenomenal. But yeah, the higher end stuff or the more exclusive stuff, I kind of just try to enjoy those from afar a little bit. Don't really buy singles or get into breaks for them, but again, it just comes down to like do you like the design or do you like certain players? Like I know some of those lines will focus on retired players and autographs, Hall of Famers, stuff like that. So if you're more into that side of things, me in particular, I if there's a Hall of Fame player, I would prefer to try to get a card of theirs while they were active. I'm not really too big into, a Hall of Famer or retired player having a card in 2022. It's not really my thing. I know that there's some awesome autographs and inserts and stuff for those kinds of players, but I'm focusing on, the first and the rookie cards of active players. So, but yeah, like there's other ones, like there's some cool designs, but for the price point, I'm just trying to focus on, prospects and Orioles of, Bowman Topps so that later on, I can become, a little bit more diversified and buy other stuff that I like, hopefully, with maybe some cash that I make off of these cards. But I think just speaking for myself, and again, it's just for me, it could vary for you or anybody else. It's really collect what you like. But for me, I just love those first and prospecting. But for me, that'll come later to branch out into those other like higher end sets or more specific sets.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I'm more about the here and now, or actually to be more specific, the future. That's the cards I'm like really I want to focus on. I think it's cool when I get a Brooks Robinson, Eddie Murray, Cal Ripken card, but it's not like actually I don't even have a page dedicated to those guys in my Orioles binder. I have current players and prospects. But it's still cool to see. I'll watch like a break, even if I'm not in it, just to see what they pull, see what it's like. If someone goes crazy, if they hit a 101, it's still fun regardless. But I guess Panini Select is coming out in the next couple weeks. I'll probably do the Orioles. I'll do an Orioles break for anything that's relatively cheap. So I'll probably get in on that. Hopefully I got some cards to show off next month when we come back. And the big one for me, like you said, Topps Stadium Club. I love the photography. And especially, it's pretty cheap to get a case of Stadium Club compared to some other stuff. So I'll be getting some Orioles and maybe even some other teams for that. I haven't seen a checklist yet, so I don't know who's included, who's not, who's going to have autographs. But what are you hoping for when it comes to Stadium Club?
I mean, really, like I'm always interested in seeing, not to repeat myself, but yeah, that photography, it's just so unique. The different vantage points and the both Bowman and Topps and really all the other sets, it's usually a guy, swinging the bat or in the field. But with Stadium Club, you'll see some really unique, poses or, scenarios in the field. Yeah. Action shots. So that to me is like what I always look forward to the most. And and there's not really, I don't think, at least the past several years, there's really no borders. So the whole
Yes.
image has a chance to really be displayed there. And so I like that a lot too. And then also for me, that there is some nostalgia there, because if I remember correctly, the first Top Stadium Club year, and you might need to correct me on this, but I believe that the first Top Stadium Club set was in 1991. And that kind of changed things a little bit, even though it was in the middle of the junk wax era. It was either 91 or 92. It might have been 92. But I always remember it was the first like really high-end glossy cardstock, and really kind of changed things. You know, it was the first a little more high-end. You know, back at the time, I remember packs were like, you know, maybe approaching $10, or like they were over $5, which for a kid,
Right.
I was like, wow, like that's super expensive, you know? And I remember that was like the first kind of like high-end set for a lot of people. And, you know, it was very simple design, but again, the photography was different. It was really nice. So yeah, so that for me, it's like when I saw that they brought Top Stadium Club and Chrome back, you know, I think it was 2017 or something like that. And I might be off a year or two there, but I was like super interested. And I personally, and I could be completely off here, but I think that there's also some value there, because, you know, because of the photography, and it, you know, Stadium Club Chrome in particular is really nice, I think, card stock. I think that people that collect rookie cards, I think a lot of them are going to want those Top Stadium Club Chrome rookies and parallels and autographs. So I think that there's some value there. You know, at least for me, I'm always going to think that those are desirable cards. So, you know, maybe other collectors will think the same thing at some point, or at least more so than they do now. And, you know, boxes and singles of Stadium Club and Stadium Club Chrome, like you said, they're not crazy expensive. So, you know, I definitely recommend, like, if you have a chance, you know, buy a box, or, you know, buy some singles of some rookies you like, or Orioles that you like. And at the very least, like, you have some really nice looking cards.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we're coming up on an hour here. So if there's any other cards that we want to show off, this would be the time to do so. So you got anything worth looking at here?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just show, like, you know, you had one, but, you know, picked up a couple Daryl Hernandez autographs.
Nice.
So yeah, just have, you know, like a refractor, still have the little painter's tape that the person packaged them with. And these, I think both of these I got off of eBay. I think I got this blue one, so that's a
That's
non-autographed Daryl. Yeah, and then like a couple others that I wanted to show. These really quick. These are some other Kobe Mayos that my friends and I got. It was a blue to 150. This one's a speckle to 299 Kobe Mayo autograph. And for people that aren't familiar with Kobe Mayo in particular, for his first Bowmans, they're autograph only. So you can't buy base cards of his, first cards at least, you know, that are firsts. So that's always kind of interesting. There's always a few players in every Bowman set that are only available autograph in terms of their firsts. But a couple other cards that I wanted to show, just because we, you know, first kind of segment that we've done, and, you know, we talked about different reasons to get into it. You know, for me, like, you know, the little pool of cards that my friends and I started, that's an investment, but ultimately I got back into it just because I love the hobby and I love baseball and baseball cards. But you meet some like really cool people, and you meet some really nice people. And that's another reason that I really enjoy it. But I did a trade with someone, you know, that I met on Facebook last summer, and we just got to talking, and he's, you know, super nice guy. And you'll meet a lot of collectors like this. They're like, hey, who's your team? Who do you collect? And they'll just send you, you know, cards that they know you'll like. So, you know, somebody that's a Reds fan, his name's Mike. You know, we did a Facebook trade last year, but he sent me this Brooks Robinson. I don't know the year because it's not on the back, but I think it's, I want to say it's like a 67, something like that. But, you know, obviously oversized card. And,
Wow.
you know, I love it. You know, Brooks is my favorite all-time Oriole. I love Cal Ripken too, and Eddie Murray, but Brooks I've always loved because, you know, one of the best third basemen ever. And also just, you know, growing up around here, everybody that's ever met Brooks Robinson has always said how much of a gentleman he is. And a lot of kids around here have been named Brooks, like their parents named their kids Brooks. So I've always loved Brooks Robinson. So that's a cool card right there. And then another like similar kind of story. I did a Facebook sale. Somebody reached out to me wanting to buy an Astros card. We got to talking on Facebook, and I told him I'm a big Orioles fan, and he was like, I went to Grayson Rodriguez's high school, so I collect Grayson Rodriguez cards. This is the Astros fan. I was like, oh, cool. And I just mentioned to him, I love Gray Rod, but I just have a couple, first refractors of his, no autographs. And he said, hey, I've got a ton of autographs. I've got one sitting on my coffee table right now. And he said, I'm going to send you one for free.
Wow.
So he gave me a Grayson Rodriguez, like, first autograph,
That's
just,
awesome.
like, random act of kindness or whatever. So that, that kind of stuff, like, really means a lot to me. And, it's really cool. And I try to do the same whenever I can. And that's like the, the good side of the hobby, I think. And it's really what it's all about is, collecting your favorite players and your favorite teams. And, when there's someone else that's either getting into the hobby or maybe they've been in the hobby for a long time, if you can send them some cards that they like, where it's not just, dollars and cents or, are we, even on this trade or whatever, that's really cool too. So, yeah, those are like couple cards that I wanted to show.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Every once in a while you buy a card from someone on eBay or Reddit or where have you, and you'll open it up and there's 3 cards in here. So
yeah,
I've tried to return that favor where I actually sold a Andrew Vaughn rookie card last year to a White Sox fan, I think. And I was like, well, I have some other White Sox cards that this person might like that I have no use for. So I'll just toss them in there as well. So I do think that's pretty cool how, it just seems like for the most part, everyone's pretty cool and just trying to help each other out as far as building their collections.
absolutely. Yeah. And, I kind of am a believer in karma, and yeah, like, the more that you do that, it's really, I do think it should be about, helping each other out and, being nice to other people. And, I do think it'll come back. I mean, it's not the reason that I do it, but, the more friends that you make in the hobby, like if you're on good terms with, a few different people locally, or if they're across the country on Facebook, I've connected other Facebook collectors with other people that I know, because I know, like, hey, some person's looking for, maybe like a Julio Rodriguez card to, mention a top rookie from this year. And if I know that they're looking for Julio Rodriguez and I come across a Facebook post or I see an eBay listing, I'll let them know. And at the very least, not that that's like generous or anything, but, I'm connecting somebody with, a card that they like. And then there's also situations where, like, hey, I might have an autograph of a player that, maybe isn't my favorite, and maybe it's got some value to it. Like, that Grayson Rodriguez autograph, like, is, it's valuable. Like, there's definitely people that'll pay some money for it. So, that collector didn't have to send it to me at all. And there's going to be situations, hopefully we'll all do the same thing. And, it might be $100 card or more or whatever. But, if I know somebody's a true fan or a true collector, I'd love to do the same for someone like that, especially, if they're a kid, that is just getting into collecting, things like that. I'm hoping to do more of myself too.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to Brooks Robinson, I have to share a funny story. When I was around 10 years old, I think my dad and my uncle took me up on a trip to Cooperstown just to go see the Hall of Fame. Wasn't an induction or anything, just went, looked around. And Clete Boyer, at some point, Yankees third baseman, was signing autographs. And my dad said, why don't you go up and get his autograph? So I went up, and he was asking me questions. I said, I'm an Oriole fan. Brooks Robinson was the best third baseman of all time. And he's like, oh, what about me? So it was like, it was a funny interaction for some kid that didn't know anything, just to go up and talk crap to a Major League Baseball player. But yeah, that was interesting. That's what I always remember when I think about Brooks Robinson. But
that's awesome.
A couple cards I'll show off here. Just I had the Brewers in a break, and here's a Panini, a pitcher I actually like who was just put on the injured list, unfortunately. Aaron Ashby, he's a rookie this year. Kind of reminds me of DL Hall for the Orioles.
Yeah,
that's numbered to 25.
Nice.
And Gypsy Queen came out not too long ago. I don't know what you think about them. It's a little more
I think they're cool looking.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. They're different. And just here's a Trey Mancini blue.
Nice.
Parallel, and also had I got a Jahmai Jones autograph. I don't know where I put that, and he got released like 2 weeks later. And Jose Barrero, and then One more. It was a Cedric Mullins from the Topps Tribute from this past year. It's a 199 relic. Pretty
Nice.
cool looking card.
That
So
is, yeah, very cool card.
yeah, so that'll do it. We were going to do a player spotlight on Gunnar Henderson, but I feel like we've pretty much spotlighted him throughout this whole show. So, we'll try to key in on that topic next time a little bit more. But Fernando, thank you so much for doing this for me. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to next month when we can share the new cards we added to our collection.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.